Now, for more, let's go to Kampala in Uganda and bring in Joseph Ochieno, who's an East Africa political analyst. Very good to have you here on the program. First of all, how bad is the situation?
It is very, very bad. I mean, I don't want to do figures, nor do I want to do quantity, because it's about human beings and humanity. If you can imagine that a population of whatever number, that nearly half of that are people who are starving, and predominantly more than half of that are children who are starving without food. And if you can imagine that a household is locked up, both in the house and in the gate, in the compound, and they have no access to the rest of the world, and they're locked up not by friends and family, but they're locked up by enemies. That is how bad the situation is. And it's not 1 day, it's not 2 days, it's not 1 month. Thanks to agencies like yourselves, you've been reporting these things. But I am sort of sometimes tired talking about the forgotten wars. Is it the one of Sudan? Is it the one of South Sudan? Is it the one of DR Congo? But here we're talking about Sudan. And if you're talking about Sudan and you're talking about within the context of Darfur, this is a region that has suffered since possibly before I was an average child. So it's extraordinarily terrible. How we're able to end this, I genuinely do not know. Sadly, if we are talking Sudan and we're talking other parts of Africa, and then you see what's happening in Gaza and the word is silent, you can imagine that the victims, these people here in this sub-region that we're talking about, know very well that been forgotten before. But if they could imagine that, they couldn't imagine rather that we would have what we're having in the Middle East. I'm sorry to link the two because they're actually generally globally linked. Then you can imagine that the trauma minus food, the trauma minus water, the trauma minus medicine, it is actually an atrocious war. It is criminal, it's genocide, but I think it's war that must really stop and stop now.
So now that we have this opportunity, we're talking about this war. You're live here on air together with us. Tell us, why is it that so many people are now starving in this location?
Because there's been one cumulative, but two very specifically deliberate, that the Sudanese rebels knew that they could use humans as human shield. That happens in war. But this time they know that you go ahead and, if you like, want to seek sort of revenge against a population that you're supposed to be allegedly liberating and working for, simply because there has been a semblance of association or support to your opponents. Many of these people who chose at whatever stage to say that they want to side with the Sudanese authorities, they would almost have done so as a matter of sovereignty in principle, but maybe also because of fear. Every nation state, sovereign nation state, will have their authoritative forces. And of course, the authoritative forces, you don't necessarily have to like them because you know they've got, if you like, a national sovereignty mandate. But whatever the case, it is difficult to tell that in a population of 10 people, you will necessarily have 100% supporting you, even if it's basically political exercise of civic duty. But so for this to happen in this way, and it's been cumulative over a long period of time, it has just now gotten worse. And thanks, I say, to agencies like yourselves, here's where we are. It's not only the world's forgotten war, but it's a war that we saw happening and coming. But guess what? Some of the backers of these rebels are big, unfortunate global powers. The United Arab Emirates, these are global powers who are friends with the powers in Washington and London. But guess what? They're powers because of their money. They're powers because of their equipment. But they're powers because it's now proxy war. Can you imagine the irony that these are the guys who just the other day claimed that they can be genuine peace brokers between Rwanda and DR Congo? You can't pick and choose what humanity is all about. That is why we believe this matter in Sudan need to be dealt with. I think there's need for the genuine regional and comprehensive regional approach to conflicts in the sub-region, whether it's in Sudan, whether it's in Chad, or in Congo, DR Congo, or in South Sudan. But also likewise, we take a comprehensive approach on Africa. But I think it's also time that we take a comprehensive approach to global peace, global crisis, including the unacceptable atrocities and almost apparent genocide in the Middle East, basically being pushed, in this case, by Israel against innocent Palestinian children, particularly.
All right, Joseph, thank you so much for taking the time to highlight this issue here on TRT World.
Thanks for having me.